Intro. In every interaction between a man and a woman, there exists a silent battlefield of emotions. One that hides beneath the surface of words, gestures, and glances. It's a territory ruled not by logic, but by an invisible psychology, a dance between what we desire and what we dare not reveal. Slavoj Žižek once said that we often hide our deepest truths behind the mask of behavior that appears indifferent. And that, my friend, is where the real mystery of attraction lives, in the contradiction between what is felt and what is shown. When a woman likes you but tries not to show it, you are not just dealing with affection. You are witnessing a psychological defense mechanism, a performance of control that conceals vulnerability. She is protecting her image, testing your perception, and resisting her own emotional exposure. This is not deceit. It is a deeply human strategy, to conceal what we value most for fear that revealing it might destroy it. In this video, we are going to break open that hidden code, not through cliches or superficial dating tips, but through the lens of female psychology and Žižek's philosophical insights. We'll uncover how subtle actions, unconscious signals, and emotional contradictions become the language of suppressed attraction. Every pause, every look away, every carefully constructed indifference, all of it tells a story. A story she won't put into words, but one her behavior whispers to anyone perceptive enough to listen. So, if you've ever wondered whether she likes you but hides it behind a mask of calm, this isn't just another signs she likes you video. This is an exploration into the psychology of desire, the fear of exposure, and the silent art of concealment. Part 1. The Paradox of Desire. Why Women Hide Their Feelings. Slavoj Žižek often reminds us that desire is not about having the thing we want. It's about wanting itself. The very act of desiring keeps the mystery alive. And for many, women revealing attraction too soon feels like surrendering the mystery. Society has taught her that vulnerability can be mistaken for weakness, that expressing desire openly might cost her power, dignity, or control. So she builds walls, not of hostility, but of subtle restraint. She may laugh at your jokes, but not too hard. She may compliment you, but immediately shift the topic. She may look at you when she thinks you're not watching, but look away when you meet her eyes. These contradictions aren't confusion, they are choreography. The dance between wanting and resisting, between exposure and safety, her silence, her pauses, her playful arguments, they all belong to the same emotional logic. She wants you to see her without her having to say it. Because to say it would make it real, and to make it real would make her vulnerable. That's the paradox Žižek often talks about, our fear of getting what we truly want. For once we get it, the fantasy dissolves. She hides her feelings because she wants to maintain the tension, the delicious uncertainty that keeps both of you thinking, does she or doesn't she? It's in that uncertainty where attraction thrives, where desire breathes. If you learn to read that hesitation, not as rejection but as protection, you'll see a new layer of truth. The woman who acts indifferent may not be hiding disinterest. She may be protecting intensity, the subtle language of hidden attraction. Now let's talk about the signs. Not the obvious ones, but the ones that live in micro-expressions, in timing and contradiction. You see, women who like you but try not to show it often communicate through paradoxes. She may tease you more than anyone else, because teasing is a safe form of intimacy. She may act uninterested in your attention, yet notice the smallest changes in your appearance, your tone, or your behavior. She may avoid eye contact, not because she's bored, but because she fears her eyes might reveal too much. Žižek would say that our gestures betray us more than our words ever could. When she brushes her hair back when you're around, when she mirrors your posture unconsciously, when her tone softens just slightly during certain moments, these are signals that bypass her conscious filter. Her body becomes the messenger of the emotions her mind is trying to censor. Even distance can be a sign. Sometimes she might deliberately withdraw or create space, not to reject you, but to see if you'll notice. Because for her, that reaction tells her more about your feelings than any question ever could. This is what Žižek would call the psychological game of absence, where distance is not lack but communication. Another powerful indicator is her selective attention. When a woman likes you secretly, she becomes hyper-aware of details about you that others overlook. She remembers what you said last week. She notices your energy when you're tired. She laughs at your jokes even when they're average, because they came from you. But she'll do all of this subtly, almost invisibly, to keep her feelings shielded. Why? Because attraction mixed with fear produces one of the most complex emotions, controlled vulnerability. She's drawn to you, but she's fighting the pull. She wants to be near, but not exposed. It's not a lack of feeling. It's the overwhelming presence of it. When you start decoding these layers, you'll realize the woman who hides her feelings is not cold. She's brave in her restraint, delicate in her silence, and poetic in her contradictions. And once you learn to read that silent poetry, you'll see affection written everywhere and between her pauses, in her tone, in her distance, in her eyes. The mirror of control. Why she tests you. Every hidden emotion seeks confirmation, but never directly. When a woman likes you and tries not to show it, she won't confess it in words. She'll test it in silence. These tests are not manipulation. They're psychological experiments of trust. Žižek often says that ideology is revealed not in what we say, but in what we expect from others without saying it. Likewise, she wants to see whether you perceive her truth beyond her defense. She might appear cold after being warm, delay her replies after showing enthusiasm, or withdraw just when things feel comfortable. Many men misread this as loss of interest, but philosophically it's the exact opposite. Her retreat is an emotional audit. Will you stay consistent even when she hides her affection? Because if you do, it tells her that your interest isn't dependent on easy validation, that you see something deeper than her surface resistance. Every test is a micro-performance of control. Society teaches women that losing emotional control equals losing power, so she conducts subtle experiments to measure your patience, empathy, and perception. In her world, the one who can remain calm when confused is the one who can be trusted with her vulnerability. These trials might take many forms. Sarcasm to see if you get offended, distance to see if you chase, curiosity masked as indifference. To a man impatient for certainty, these moves feel like games. But to a woman shielding her feelings, they are emotional armor. Žižek would call this the dialectic of distance, the paradoxical act of moving away to see if someone moves closer. So, what should you do when she tests you? Understand the hidden logic. She is not seeking your perfection. She is seeking your stability. Remain steady, grounded, non-reactive. When you respond with calm authenticity rather than panic or pursuit, you dissolve the very fear that made her hide in the first place. Attraction that survives confusion becomes real, because love, in Žižek's eyes, is not the meeting of two flawless beings, but the ability to confront another's chaos without fleeing. She hides to see if you'll still see her. She retreats to know if you'll still remain. And in that quiet psychological duel, affection becomes belief. The theater of everyday signals in the theater of social life, nothing is accidental. Every gesture, every hesitation, every tone is part of a choreography we perform without knowing. Žižek often claims that our unconscious writes the script long before our mouths speak it. When a woman secretly likes you, this script appears in the smallest, most mundane exchanges, because that is where authenticity leaks through. Notice how she arranges herself when you enter a room. The adjustment of her hair, the subtle straightening of posture, the way her laughter grows a tone brighter. These are not rehearsed actions but spontaneous responses. Her body aligns with attraction before her mind can censor it. She may maintain composure, yet her micro-movements betray excitement. Observe her conversational rhythm. When she's around you, pauses lengthen, words carry hidden emphasis, and moments of silence suddenly feel charged. She may tease you about trivial things, your hairstyle, your opinion, your lateness. But teasing becomes her language of emotional proximity. Through it, she tests boundaries without fully crossing them. Digital communication reveals another stage. Online, she might watch your stories without liking them, reply late but with thoughtful messages, or reference something you said days earlier. This paradox of attention and restraint forms the virtual mask of modern attraction. Žižek would argue that in a hyper-connected world, real desire survives only in the gaps, in the spaces where expression is almost complete, but deliberately held back. Even group dynamics expose hidden affection. Around others, she may minimize direct interaction, fearing that attention could expose her feelings publicly. Yet she will subtly monitor you. A glance when you speak, a smile when you laugh, a shift of energy when someone else gets close. These are quiet signals written in the grammar of restraint. Understanding this theater requires emotional literacy. You must read between gestures rather than chase confessions. She doesn't want to tell you she likes you. She wants you to feel it. Because feeling requires perception, and perception proves depth. Žižek would remind us that in every act of concealment, there exists a secret desire to be discovered. She hides not because she wants invisibility, but because she wants revelation, but only by someone who sees beyond masks. So pay attention, not obsession. Observe patterns, not proofs. For the woman who hides her affection is like an actress protecting her final scene. She rehearses silence, hoping someone worthy will understand the story hidden between her lines. The psychology of defense and vulnerability. To understand why a woman conceals affection, you must enter the psychological battlefield where fear and hope coexist. Žižek often speaks of the split subject, the human torn between what they desire and what they think they should desire. In attraction, this split becomes painfully visible. A woman's decision to hide her feelings doesn't arise from manipulation. It arises from protection. Past disappointment, societal judgment, or fear of rejection form layers of defense. She has learned that showing too much interest invites imbalance, and imbalance threatens her emotional safety. So she wears neutrality as armor. At the same time, she yearns to be seen. This duality creates tension. She wants connection, but fears consequence. Her rational mind whispers, "Stay composed," while her emotional core screams, "Show him." That friction produces mixed signals that confuse most men. Yet in truth, contradiction is honesty. Humans are contradictory because emotions rarely move in straight lines. When she withdraws after intimacy, it's not coldness. It's regulation. When she avoids eye contact after laughter, it's not boredom. It's self-defense. Žižek would call this the trauma of exposure, the realization that love makes us visible and visibility is terrifying. To like someone is to hand them the power to wound you, so she hides to survive the tenderness she feels. Recognize this not as rejection but as reverence. Her restraint means she values what's forming. She fears breaking it by rushing it. A man who interprets silence as disinterest loses the lesson. The wise man reads her hesitation as an emotional scar covered with grace. What can you do? Replace interrogation with empathy. Speak gently, act consistently, and respect her pace. Don't force her to reveal. Make her feel safe to reveal. Real attraction isn't conquered. It's invited. And here lies the deepest Žižekian paradox. Love is both the most irrational and the most rational decision. Irrational because it risks everything for nothing. Rational because nothing makes life meaningful without it. When she hides her affection, she is performing a philosophical act. She's protecting meaning itself. Your role isn't to decode her perfectly but to respond authentically. The moment she senses that your curiosity comes without entitlement, that your patience carries warmth instead of pressure, her defenses begin to melt, not because you solved her puzzle, but because you made the puzzle feel safe to open. In the end, every woman who hides her feelings is not running from love. She's waiting for love that doesn't demand performance. A love that allows her to be both guarded and genuine. And when you can stand still in that contradiction with her, not forcing, not fleeing, you will see the hidden emotion transform from restraint into trust. The Stoic mirror. How a man should respond. Slavoj Žižek reminds us that real power does not come from domination, but from composure, the ability to remain still when emotion demands movement. When a woman hides her affection, your reaction determines whether the connection matures or collapses. Most men panic at ambiguity. They crave directness, confirmation, words. But attraction that lives in subtlety requires patience, not pursuit. The Stoic man does not chase clarity. He creates safety. His calmness communicates what words cannot: stability. When she distances herself, he does not retaliate with silence or accusation. He remains grounded, curious, and kind. His strength lies not in demanding her attention, but in making his energy a place where she feels free to drop her defenses. Every hidden feeling she carries is wrapped in uncertainty. If your behavior mirrors insecurity, her fear doubles. If your presence radiates assurance, her hesitation softens. Žižek would say that ideology collapses not through confrontation, but through quiet consistency. The same applies here. Her emotional ideology, "I must hide to stay safe," dissolves when you respond with steady authenticity. Be observant, but not obsessive. Compliment without expectation. Listen without seeking reward. When she hides behind sarcasm, meet it with humor, not offense. When she withdraws, give her space without vanishing. When she tests, respond with understanding, not ego. Your calm detachment does not mean disinterest. It means mastery of self. This is the Stoic mirror, the space where her reflection changes because your stillness reframes it. The calmer you remain, the more contradictions she can safely unfold. In this state, you become not her solver, but her sanctuary. Do not mistake her emotional restraint for lack of intensity. Often, the women who hide the most feel the deepest. But their emotions bloom only in warmth, not in interrogation. So cultivate presence over performance. In silence, your steadiness becomes louder than any declaration. Žižek once said, "Love is not finding perfection, it is seeing an imperfect person perfectly." When you stop demanding proof and start providing peace, you give her permission to reveal herself. Because only in emotional safety does truth find language. The revelation. When hidden affection emerges, eventually, the moment arrives when restraint begins to tremble under its own weight. The eyes linger longer, The voice softens and something ineffable shifts in the air between you. What was once hidden starts to surface, not through confession, but through comfort. She begins to relax in your presence. Her laughter becomes unguarded, her messages warmer, her silence less tense. This is the transformation of fear into familiarity. Žižek might call this the collapse of symbolic distance, the instant when the roles of observer and observed blur and authenticity takes over. The woman who once tested you now starts to trust you. The woman who avoided eye contact begins to hold it. The one who shielded her affection begins to show it in small, sincere gestures. Do not rush this moment. It's fragile, sacred. Treat it not as victory but as vulnerability shared. She isn't finally yours. She's finally free. Free to be herself without the armor of control. Her openness will not appear grand. It might show in quiet acts, seeking your advice, sharing personal memories, or revealing insecurities she never voiced before. These are the sacred signs of trust, and trust, once formed, is more intimate than attraction itself. This is where most men fail. They treat revelation as reward instead of responsibility. But a wise man, the Stoic student of psychology and philosophy, sees revelation as the beginning of deeper respect. Her openness is not proof of your success. It's proof of her courage. In that moment, you must remember what Žižek calls the painful beauty of love, the awareness that to love someone is to accept their fragility without trying to fix it. When she finally drops the mask, hold space, not dominance. Appreciate the quiet miracle of a guarded heart learning to trust again. Žižek's final truth on love and concealment. At the end of every hidden affection lies a philosophical paradox. The more we try to conceal what we feel, the more it defines us. Žižek often argues that love is an act of madness, the suspension of rational defense in favor of raw vulnerability. When a woman hides her affection, she is fighting that madness with reason. But reason, no matter how powerful, eventually surrenders to truth. To like someone but try not to show it is not weakness. It is the human condition. It is the struggle between fear and faith, between history and hope. She hides because she has been hurt, because she wants to be understood without explanation. And when you, through your patience and authenticity, allow her to feel safe again, you are not just winning her heart. You are helping her heal the invisible narrative that once made her hide. Žižek says that in love, we don't find perfection. We find reflection, the part of ourselves we denied now standing before us in another. Perhaps her concealment mirrors your own fears of rejection, your own hidden emotions. The process of understanding her becomes the process of understanding yourself. So if you ever find yourself wondering whether she likes you but tries not to show it, remember this. What you are witnessing is not confusion, it is courage restrained. It is attraction wrapped in self-preservation. Look deeper, beyond the mixed signals, beyond the silences. What you'll see is a heart learning to trust again, one slow moment at a time. In the end, the greatest sign she likes you is not in her words or gestures. It's in her consistency of presence. Even when she hides, she stays near. Even when she's silent, she listens. Even when she resists, she returns. And that, as Žižek would say, is love at its most real. Not perfect, not simple, not cinematic, but profoundly human. The beauty of what hides is that it longs to be seen. And when you finally see it, without demand, without fear, you don't just discover her affection. you discover the quiet, paradoxical truth of love itself.